All right, guys, so in this video, I want to share with you how I get the best deal for my clients by negotiating a deal, right? And it's just not like you just submit an offer. There's a lot of things that I look at before we submit an offer. So I'm going to share with you today on how you guys can actually negotiate and get the best deal as possible. So before even like negotiating a deal, the first thing that you really need to do is understand what is going on with the marketplace as far as like customary practices, right? Who pays closing costs, who pays title escrow fees, right? Who's paying all the agent fees? These are things that you need to understand. And also, what is the average price point, what you are paying price per square foot, and this is what you're going to use as a barometer. But when it comes to real estate, everything is all localized. So you can't just all lump it together. Everything is really based upon the house, the condition of the home, the community, the neighborhood, the zip code, and the surrounding areas. So the first thing that you need to do is identify exactly how much you're looking to spend, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, the square footage. And when you go out and you start looking at the surrounding areas, now you can use that as a barometer. Hey, this is what I'm paying price per square foot. Am I paying over or under? Then once you identify that zip code and you have narrowed it down, the next step is to find that property, right? Let's just say if you haven't found that property, you want to set up a home search within that surrounding areas that you're looking for based upon the price per square foot. And at that point, you should be getting an auto email from your agent every time a property pops up in the market. So that way you can see what's popping up, what's the condition of the home, how long it's staying on the market, is that property moving, is the trend going up or going down. So let's just assume that you found the property and the sales price is at the $415,000. And I'm just using this as an example for a property that I'm looking at today. Now the list price per square foot right now is at $295,000. Now the next step here is to find out what the seller actually paid for the property and when did they buy the property. So in this example here, this seller had purchased the property October 2021 for $350,000, but they have it on the market right now for $415,000. So as you can see, you have about a $65,000 difference. Now, just because there's a $65,000 difference doesn't mean you can just submit an offer at $350,000, right? And you're going to get the deal. No, and the reason why is because there's fees that the seller has to pay for. And by the time they pay out these fees, it could cost nearly up to $40,000 if you submit an offer at $350,000 and they accept it. But no seller out there will actually accept that type of offer, because when people sell their property, they're not going to take a loss unless they're super motivated and they also have the money. But you also want to submit an offer that's more realistic to the point where they're going to accept your offer, but you're also going to get a great deal. So one of the things I take a look at is how long has that property also been on the market, right? So this is where it comes down to what is the average days on the market if we take a look at the whole market. Now, if the market is, the average days on the market is 42 days, but you see that this property has been on the market for 100 days, then there's probably something wrong with the property, right? How many times has it gone in and out of contract? Did it fall out of escrow? What's the reason why? Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly how to get that information. Now, also, we really want to take a look at the history of the property, because sometimes you may find a property that it's priced correctly, you love it, next thing you know it, we check the history, it was initially listed higher, but then it's been on the market over, 300-400 days. But you notice that when you check the listing is only recent. It was only for 3-4 days on the market. And what agents tend to do is sometimes they'll take a listing that's overpriced and it's not selling, but they end up doing a price reduction on the home. And when they do the price reduction, they take it off the market, put it back on the market as a fresh listing on the MLS, and it re-triggers as a brand new listing. So this is the reason why we have to take a look at the whole history of that property, because agents, what they're doing is relisting the property and it kicks on like a fresh listing. And you want to see how many times it's been on and off the market, okay? How many times has the seller did a price reduction, and how aggressive is that price reduction? So in this case, the property I was looking at here, the original price was at $450,000, but it's been on the market for a couple months, and what they did was took it off the market, put it back on the market, did a $10,000 price reduction. And that's pretty aggressive, right? After about 60 days, you do another price reduction, another price reduction. So the more price reductions you see, the better it is. The higher the price reduction, what does that tell you? It tells you that the seller is motivated. Now, sometimes you'll see where a property's been on the market for some time, they take it off the market, put it back on the market, but all they do is just change the price by only $10. That tells me that that seller is not motivated. That seller is waiting for the market to catch up to get to the price that they want. And you could be submitting an offer and you could just be wasting your time. So I want to talk about the local trend, okay? Now, when I say local trend, it's basically within that zip code. I want to hyper focus on that zip code. I want to see exactly what's going on. So one of the things I take a look at is the estimated population. So for this property, for an example, there's about 57,000 people that live within this zip code. And I want to take a look at population growth. Is it going up or is it going down? So in this example here, the population growth had dropped by 2%. Now, another thing I look at is the density with a mile radius. I want to see exactly how many people live within the mile. So again, for this example, there's about 5,500 people that live within the mile radius. So it's a very high density area. The reason why this is important is because, you know, when you live in the inner city, you want to see how much density it is, because when you go to sell it, it could be very attractive to other people because people want to live next to schools, shopping. It's all about the lifestyle out here in Las Vegas. Now, another thing we look at is the median age, okay? The median age right now within this zip code is about 43 years of age. The reason why this is important, because if you have younger people that are, 19, 20, 21, 25, and we already know the average person that are buying homes in today's economy is the average is about 41 years old. So that tells me that if the average age or the median age is only like 23, right? It's too trendy. People are just constantly coming and going. And if you want to rent it out, it's going to be a little bit challenging, right? And what holds the value within that mile radius is the population, how many homeowners. And we're going to get into that in here in just a second. So another thing I take a look at is the number of households, right? So the number of households within the zip code is 23,000, okay? So that means every house you have a minimum of 3 people right now that live in the house. So you probably got a mom, dad, and 1 kid, right? So from a rental perspective, that tells me that if I'm buying this house, does it have at least 3 bedrooms or more? If the answer is yes, then yeah, I'm definitely moving forward, right? Now we take a look at the gender too as well. So in this example, 49% are males, 51% is females, okay? Then I take a look at the marital status. So again, for this example, 43% are married, 32% are single, and 14% are divorced. So if 43% are married, that tells me, and the average age is about 43, they are fully established, they have kids, and if you ever decide to rent out your home, you're not going to have a problem renting out your home, right? Especially if you have a 3-bedroom or more. Then we take a look at the occupancy rate, okay? This is also important, right? Because I want to know what's the percentage of renters within the surrounding areas. So in this example is 37%. 54% are actually owners. This is where owners of the home that actually live in the home. That is really good. Workforce, this is something we take a look at. So about 18% are actually blue collar workers and white collar workers are 82%. So this tells me that the people that live in this area are fully established, they have money, and once they settle in, they don't move for a very long time. This is very important because this is where we take a look at, do we have the potential of increasing the value of this property that we're purchasing in the near future? Where is that trend going? So this is a very strong zip code. So the average household, this is what we look at. The average household income is at $80,000. Now remember, that means whoever ends up living in this area makes $80,000 a year. They have a kid, right? They also own the property, and they're probably not going to go anywhere. This really establishes the marketplace. Now, another thing I take a look at is like the average rents, right? Now, based upon the square footage that you are buying, the 3 bedrooms, right? For this example, what are the rents? The reason why this is important, because I want to see if rent trends is going up. Because if rents are going up, this tells me it's a high demand area, and that if rents do go up, what happens is more investors want to come in, they want to buy, and if they buy, it forces the appreciation to go up, because rents, when they go up, the value of the home also goes up. If the value of the home goes down, then also the rents go down. So we have to take a look at this, right? And also we want to take a look at the average sales. Now this is important because I want to know what the trend is. I want to know if the market, if we look the last 30 days, the last 60 days, 1, 2, 3 years, within this area, is the trend going up? And how much is it going up? Is it stagnant? Or if it's going to go down, how much is it going to go down by? And the reason why is so that way when we submit an offer, we can calculate that into our offer. So that way we have some sort of wiggle room to the point if the market does tank by 2%, you still bought it at a good value and you're still in a equity position. So, you know, the comps here I ran, and it's worth about $425,000. Now the seller is actually asking $415,000. So I know the true value of this property at this time. Now, before writing up an offer, okay, now the next step would be to actually contact the agent and probe and ask questions with the agent. How motivated is the seller? Why are they selling? How soon do they want to sell? Is there any wiggle room in the price? Now, the listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to represent their client. Not all agents will provide that information. Now, if I'm listing a home, I would never show my cards because it's all about how you negotiate the deal. But, you know, if you are very good and building the relationship and the rapport, just like myself, right? You should be able to extract information to position yourself so that way when you're about to write the offer, you know how to write up a clean offer, number one, and you know what to price it at. So for this example, right, we know the home is at $415,000, okay? But the question is, how much can we actually offer to actually get the deal done? So a couple things that you need to factor in, okay? You've got the listing agent is probably going to get paid about 3%. The buyer's agent is going to get about 3%. And this is where I go back to understanding customary practices in today's market, who's paying for what based upon today's market. So in today's market, on a resale, can the seller get 3% towards closing costs? The answer is probably yes, very highly likely, right? So that's 9% now. Then the seller has to pay for closing fees, and that's another 1%. So that's a total of 10%. So if we look at the purchase price of $415,000, that means the seller, if they accept your offer, standard at 10% at this point, that's $41,500. So now the seller is going to take a look at this. Hey, my offer, my asking price of $415,000 minus $41,500, that leaves the seller now with $373,500. But remember, the seller bought the property for $350,000. Okay? Now, if they bought it for $350,000, that means the total net, once the deal closes, the seller is going to make $23,500 off this deal. So there's still some margins that you can actually negotiate, right? But it really comes down to how motivated is the seller. Sometimes the sellers are so motivated, they just want to get out of the deal as long as they breaking even, and that's all they're looking for. So that's why it's very important to take a look at the history, how many times they did the price reductions, what were the increments of the price reductions. So in this case, if I just wanted the property because I wanted to move in, I'm not buying this as an investment property, I would say the fair offer on this deal, right, would literally be, I would pay $415,000, knowing the value of this home is at $425,000. I would offer them the full asking price, but ask for the closing costs and factor in that total 10%. Would I get the home? The chances are very highly likely. Now, if you want to be more aggressive and you're buying this more for an investment property, then at that point, I would actually ask for about $60,000 price reduction, where the seller is just going to make $5,000, right? He doesn't care because he just wants out of the deal because he's super motivated. Now, this is going to be a case-by-case basis. It really depends on you. Are you buying this as an investment property? Are you emotionally involved? Or you're actually trying to get a house? But you should always go through this whole process so that way you can get the best deal as possible. Now, if you're just buying this as an investment property, you're going to have to write multiple offers. There's tons of deals out there. You just have to go and find it, and it really just depends on you. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Now, if you guys like more video content like this, please let me know. I really want to change up this channel a little bit. I just don't want to just do video home tours. Number one, it's starting to get boring because all the homes look the same, and it just doesn't, pique my interest anymore, just walking around, just talking. It's just boring, and I'm sure you guys are bored too as well, right? So I want to do more educational videos. I really want to help you guys out. So let me know in the comments below if you guys like more videos like this, okay? And we have a lot of free products. All you have to do is check out the description. Within the descriptions, there's going to be a bunch of links. Click any of those links, and the products are free. All you have to do is subscribe to those products, and we will definitely give it out to you. Now, if you're looking to buy or if you're looking to sell, we definitely would love the opportunity to earn your business. Feel free to reach on out to us anytime. Other than that, I wish you guys nothing but the best, and be blessed. Peace.